or what the state averages are. So we need to do more change, and we really need to focus on parents and help their role in getting the children responsible for attending school and developing their set of skills. The other item is effective school boards have collaborative relationships with staff and community and establish strong communication structures to inform and engage both internally and externally the stakeholders that we serve. We work well with our superintendent. We're doing our best to work with the superintendent and the principals and the staff to assure that there's a safe work environment which our students can attend. Not only that, there's a safe work environment for the teachers and staff that all participate in that school. One of the major goals of schooling is to make sure that our staff and our children are safe from outside interferences. The other goal is to align our resources and our staff to accommodate the goals and objectives that we establish. And I believe with this new school board being seated, we'll develop a strategic plan and missions that's doable in the next 3 years so we can say to ourselves, we've done our job. These students are prepared to go to the next level of education. They can read, they can write, they can manage emotional relationships with their peers, with staffing, and with family members. We think we can develop that relationship a lot better. Also, effective schools lead as a united team with the superintendent, each from their respective roles. And we really don't like to micromanage. As a school board member, I did not micromanage the staff at all. Most of the work that I do is done with the school board in the school board meeting and in the executive session when we talk about sensitive issues. So a lot of people call me, I refer them to the leadership command control activities so that the people don't have to look to me, and I take the information to the school board and we address it as a team and as a unit, 5 board members, we're equal on the board. And lastly, effective school boards take part in team development and training with their superintendent and the staff to build the knowledge, values, and commitment for professional improvement for the school. I think my recommendation would be to really strongly develop a safe educational environment, create opportunities for students, develop a strategic plan, and operate in a spirit of collaboration. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Richard. And we'll move on to Deb Bluebird for an opening statement.
Thank you, Tom. Good afternoon, listening audience, KILI, and our students and parents. My name is Debbie Bluebird. Lakota Zuya Maniwi Majapi. Atewaki Casey Bluebird. Ichiapi na Inawaki Lydia Feather Head. Atewaki Skokpa Yellow Bear Canyon Itahan Inawaki Wakpami Lake. Tokaya Dona Nahupta Nakabina Wapila Chijap. Na Yushkia Nape Ochus Papi. I guess my reason for running for school board is, I guess, based on what's important to me as a parent, as a grandparent, and ensuring the mission of the school. And I'd like to read that mission statement right now. It's to strengthen Lakota identity and values of students and to assure their overall well-being and academic success. And I think that's a really good mission statement because our students are primarily Lakota, and I think their identity is very important in their learning process. And I believe that we as parents, grandparents, community members, we all have a vested interest in what our children learn, how they learn, and what they're learning. And for myself, I grew up in Lakota home, and there's values that we were instilled with, my parents. One of them was wa'ohola, respect, and wa'unshila. And so as a Lakota wea, I carried those values throughout my professional career and also in my daily life. And I think that as school board members, I think that that's really important. And one thing that I'm going to, I guess, emphasize is to encourage and support our educators. I believe that we have to create conditions where the educators can succeed at what they do, which is educating our children, and that we have to make that environment a positive learning environment for our children, where they want to learn, where they want to feel safe. The other thing is, I think it's important is to get feedback from our educators, from our staff, what's working and what's not working. And as school board members, that we really take into consideration those feedbacks pertaining to what our children are learning. And so I guess that's basically my belief, what our children are learning and how they're learning and how we can encourage and support our educators. Wopila.
Thank you, Deb. Next up, we have Maurice Twiss. Thank you very much for coming.
Good afternoon, listeners out there, parents, grandparents, and most importantly, the students of the Oglala Lakota County area. I would like to present my presentation regarding what I'd like to do. First of all, I want to give a few words about myself. I'm from Cooney Table, lifetime resident other than being employed in Ulrich, South Dakota, in Hemingford, Nebraska, and Glendale, Wyoming, and University of South Dakota, and then coming back to work at Shannon County Schools for 37 years. I've been in numerous situations, having a bachelor's degree from Chadron State College, a master's degree from the University of South Dakota, and in the classroom I've taught for about 12 years. In the classroom I've worked with federal programs, federal entities, had a vast experience in working with the federal government, with impact aid, securing money for our county and other counties which have Native Americans in them, and also the armed forces. But it's been a pleasure, and I truly am honored by the fact of serving or trying to be a school board member. I think it's very important to make decisions for our future, the youth that we have. And I think it's very important that we make some proper decisions, some good decisions. It's the only time I think that people serving on a school board need to stop thinking about their importance and look for the child's importance. And I think that's something that needs to change. We need to spend money for the child instead of for decisions that aren't good for the school. I would like to say a couple things. One of my important things is to ensure safety for all students and staff and people involved in the educational process. One is for the transportation system. I know that we need to put seat belts in all the buses. We need to have better, safer rules for driving. I see on the road a lot of times of buses that really do stretch the speed limit. And the second thing is the threat of terrorism. I don't think we as the Oglala Nation, I don't think we as the state of South Dakota got into that process yet. We need to formulate some some methods of dealing with terrorism or people of terrorism threats, and just it's been recent that Texas has the governor has taken over command to develop some terrorism plans for the schools, and I don't know why we don't have leadership in our organizations to take over the responsibility of let's do something that's pretty sincere in South Dakota. Also, just in closing here, there's some things I would, want to make sure of as if I were to be elected to the school board. Is it seems like now we let out school just about for everything except for students having school days, and I would really like to see that change. Whether we get enough minutes in for the year or not, I don't know, but I do know that between weather and the fact of teacher training, etc., which is very important, but we need a better method of doing it, that we let school out so much it's just unbelievable. Okay, with those thoughts, I will sign off and go forward.
Thank you, Maurice. And also here with us is Todd O'Brien, and I'd like to give you an opportunity. Thank you for coming and give you an opportunity for an opening statement.
Well, good afternoon, everybody. Tom, the public, the parents, the teachers, the staff, and most of all, the students of Oglala Lakota County Schools. I've served on the school board for 18 years, and in my time in school board, I always took the kids first, the students first. The students are the most important thing that we have for our future. The students to succeed in any way, shape, or form they could. If it was music, basketball, track, whatever students like to do, I was always supportive of it. And as I go through the years, I refereed basketball games, I watched sporting events, I've been at schools, I've been at several different schools, and I think in the 18 years that I served on the board, we did so many things for students. We did academic banquets, we did tournaments for the youth, and let them go to Rapid, and we did all those extra things. I even worked with Maurice one year to get some music for the summer school. We had summer camps. We had so many things that are gone now today. But most of all, I was there to support the parents, the students, and the teachers. Those teachers are the most important people in our school district as we look at the students today. They're the ones there to teach and teach those kids to so many ways. They're there all day long, and the parents are there in their lives. So when you look at the students, the teachers, and the parents, those are your three main core bodies we work for. And down in the future, I'd like to see more of the extracurricular things and the educational things that are going to make them more successful when they get to high school, college, whatever they wish to do. I don't feel like any kid should be held back from here because of the education system that we provide. I worked with many parents, and we had lots of good parents throughout the district. Deb was one of them, and her children were some of the best children that I've been around. I've worked with those kids after they growed up and out of high school into the future. I worked with them, try to mentor them and help them in any way I can. So down the road, our education system really needs to step up. As I look at the STARS testing from 13 to 15, that the state report card, it doesn't look good enough to me to really think that we need to do better. And I think we need to do better down the road. And if there's any way, shape, or form I can mold those students to be better students with the parents, I'll be some support of that. Thank you.
Once again, you're listening to KILI FM Radio and watching on KOLC TV. This is the Oglala Lakota County School Board panel discussion forum. We have 4 of the 5 candidates here, Dr. Richard Zephier, Deb Bluebird, Maurice, Twiss, and Todd O'Bryan. We're missing Tom Conroy. This first question, it's interesting, Deb, that you brought up this subject, and I want to see if you can elaborate on it. You know, I'm frustrated. I think that we need more leadership from the Oglala Sioux tribe, and one of the areas is in education. And I see that we have children who are tribal members who go to school at Oglala Lakota County, who go to school at parochial like Red Cloud and OLL, and go to tribal grant schools like Little Wound and Crazy Horse, and those schools, and then there's a BIA school with Pine Ridge. We also have tribal members who go to Kadoka or go to Ulrichs. Some have gone to Hay Springs or even in Rapid City. And the leadership that I'd like to see come out of the tribe is that no matter where you go to school, if you're a member of the Oglala Sioux tribe, there should be some certain things that you should be part of the curriculum that you learn in school, and whether it be language or culture or whatever. Deb, in your opening statement, you talked about the importance of developing a Lakota identity. Mm-hmm. And you yourself had a head start because it came out of your family, and that's where you got a sound foundation. We have way too many kids that don't get that same foundation from their family. Mm-hmm. And who takes it? Is it the school? So what role is the school in the area of Lakota identity and Lakota culture? Should Oglala Lakota County schools have a solid Lakota studies curriculum, whether it be language or history and culture? And is it part of it now, or should it be play a bigger role in the school curriculum today?
Yes, that's a good question, Tom. I guess I'm pretty sure now that they do have curriculum, because my granddaughters had Lakota culture classes in her elementary years, and so I'm sure that they do have, but I think that it needs to be expanded on. And I know there's limited resources, funding for one, and so I think that we have to be creative, you know, at some point in time, be creative with our limited resources. But that identity is, I think, so very crucial for our children to be proud of who they are, where they come from, because if you instill that in a child, you know, they're comfortable with who they are, and that makes learning that much easier, you know, and I've seen that with not only my children but my grandchildren. We practice our culture with spiritually, so you know, I've seen that, and it really plays a big role in who they are and how they're going forward in their education. So I think that identity is so important, and what the schools can do, again, I'm saying, I know there's limited resources, but, you know, be creative, but still instill that, emphasize the curriculum to where they can get that knowledge of who they are, where they come from, and be proud of that, be proud of their history.
Okay. Thank you, Deb. Maurice?
Through the federal government, the new education bill passed in '95, I think. No, excuse me, it was in 2012. It gives the states the right to set some standards, and South Dakota has standards that were adopted, and you go through your reading, your math, and those things. But it also has a cultural piece for the Native American that was passed by the legislation year before last. And they started an organization, Ocheti Shakawee, that group developed a curriculum for K through 12. And you need to instruct your students using that curriculum. And several schools haven't yet adopted that in South Dakota. If I were to be elected, I would make sure that we fully taught that and developed it so that we could teach it any method we want to, but you have to have certain outcomes of that standard. So there's different ways to get to the outcomes, but we need to schedule time, take time, and develop it for our schools, our students to have a full opportunity of learning their identity and develop their self-esteem, so we could have students that are very strong when they go to college and through life. Thank you.
Thank you, Maurice. Todd?
Thank you, Tom. You know, I believe that we really need to start with the culture and language at a younger age and really beef up the language and the culture and our values in preschool, kindergarten through 5th grade. If we start when they're younger and really get it taught to them, I watch kids start through the preschool program. That's all Lakota preschool program out of Oglala, and those kids are very well in the language. They behave better. They just really have those values taught to them, and that's when you got really Lakota speaking parents at home. It really to build that up, but there's some kids that ain't brought up with that language, and I just feel like we need to start them at a younger age. We had never really pushed it at a younger age. I think if it comes to Lakota, it comes to culture, it comes to anything that's important like language and math, that can all be taught within the Lakota language. And we really need to push that at the preschool level and work it right on up into the middle school and on into high school. Thank you.
Thank you. Richard?
Thank you, Tom. Oglala Lakota County School is an Indian school. It has 98.9% students that are attending are Native American. In the literature, Native American literature points out that preservation of cultures and language is absolutely essential. It's absolutely essential to support the identity of our Native American students. And I'm glad to say that when I was superintendent, and those two gentlemen were also on with me at the school board, and we supported and developed the language and culture within the school. Now, it slowed down a couple years ago, but it's back on track. Mr. Tucro's on the board. He represents along with the rest of us, because we're all Native Americans on the school board, and we're pushing strong for Indian culture to be woven into the curriculum. You need a good curriculum. You need a good support staff. We have that. We also have safety. We've got guns within the school, within security officers. That's been implemented. The new ESA Act is also gives the states and the school districts the right to determine the type of culture and how we're going to do that. So the mechanisms or the structural mechanisms for this to take place within the Oglala Lakota County School are there. So it's operating. Now, Ms. Bluebird said that the resources are scarce. That's true. But this school board has taken action to do something about that. I know we rely on Title 8, Impact Aid, Title 7, Title 4, and Title 1, and so forth. So we get a lot of money, over $4 million for supporting those kinds of things to bring students up to grade level. We've gone further than that. We've started a business foundation for the schools so we can draw legally on resources outside the school, not just rely on federal and state funds. So the apparatus for that to happen, it already exists. And so this supports our creating opportunities for our students to become involved. And I know culture is essential, and we're working with the Oglala Sioux tribe. That's our government. It's our government. I love it. It's a sovereign entity, and it needs a support with people who know about culture and to go to the school. We need to teach about the Oglala Lakota tribal government in our schools, and we're working on that part so that the students don't learn about the tribal government when they get to college or when they happen to come to OLL and they learn about school, about the tribal government. They can learn it firsthand in civics classes and Oglala Lakota government classes at the school setting. So that's a very important feature that I think we should continue to support and give it more traction. And the other thing I want to mention about this is what governance is about. I've harped on this forever, is allocating resources to those things that are really important to us. So we know Lakota culture and language is really important. So I think, if I get reelected, we'll put a lot more than the pittance that we're putting in Oglala Lakota culture presently, and actually make it a big line item entity. In looking with the foundations, I mean, we're reaching out to trying to working with Tribal Education Committee, with ONEC, and with the state, with border schools, to actually try to get them to get involved in Oglala culture as well. So I think that's a very key thing, and it's going to make a difference to have that taught in the school systems. Thank you.
Thank you, Richard. Once again, we're coming at you live from the Woksape Tipi at Oglala Lakota College's Peowachoni campus at 3 Mile Creek. The election is coming up on Tuesday, June 5th. The voting precincts around Oglala Lakota County would allow you to vote not only in the primary election that's taking place across the state of South Dakota, but also for the school board election. The precincts are in Batesland. It's at the Oglala Lakota County Schools, and that's in Batesland. In Cooney Table, it's at Red Shirt Table. In Kyle, it's at the Medicine District Cap Office in Kyle. In Manderson, that's at the Wounded Knee District Cap Office in Manderson. In Oglala, it's at Brother Renee Hall. In Pine Ridge, both precincts 1 and 3, it's at Billy Mills Hall. In Porcupine, it's at the Porcupine School Gym. And in Rocky Ford, it's at Singing Horse Trading Post. Those are the precincts, again, for the upcoming election. The Oglala Lakota County School Board election is being held in conjunction with the South Dakota primary election. So you can vote those days at those precincts for both the South Dakota primary and the Oglala Lakota County School Board. And if you can't or are unavailable on Tuesday, you can still early vote today till 5, tomorrow throughout the day till 5, and on Monday at the Siouxland Center just east of Pine Ridge. Next question as we continue our forum, and we'll start on this question with Maurice Twiss. We continually have a teacher shortage here in South Dakota. Certainly across the state, we have more teachers who retire and who leave than we have teachers graduating from the local colleges and universities. So it creates a pressure and a void so we have a teacher shortage. And on top of that, oftentimes South Dakota has some of the lowest teaching salaries in the country. How are we to compete as an Oglala Lakota County School Board member? What ideas do you have that would help us compete to have a stable teaching staff at Oglala Lakota County, stable, and that they're good quality, and that you can retain them for more than a year or two? Maurice.
Yeah, and Tom, that's a good question. It's something that threatens the entire state of South Dakota as well as Indian nations in South Dakota. In our local area, there's numbers of things that we can do that maybe we're not doing, but I'm not sure if we're not doing them or doing them. But number one is we need to have a train your own program, and it behooves me to see that the entire reservation doesn't have a teacher training program where young people that are interested in can get their education either through Oglala Lakota College or somebody else and be certified teachers. Also, with that, the recruitment process needs to be throughout the United States. We need to recruit people, train them, and get them involved in the school system. There's always the fact of, our salary compared to Wyoming or our salary compared to Minnesota. And I think that our local salaries have gone up, but so has everybody else's. So indeed, we need to make every effort to increase the pay of the staff of the school system.
Okay. Thank you, Maurice. Todd O'Brien?
The years I spent on the board, we had a training program. In fact, Maurice headed up, it was a grant, and we trained a lot of our local people to be teachers. And we have a lot of those people with us still today. And as a board member, I would like to see a training program come back to Oglala County schools. Then also I'd like to make sure we recruit students fresh out of high school, college, fresh out of college, and get them here to do their student training and bring them in our program to make sure they stay for the following year if they're good applicants. If they're not good, when you bring a teacher training from Shattered State or OLC or whatever, you know by the teacher they worked with if they're going to be a good quality candidate for a teacher. And I think that there is really important. If we can, every student that comes out OLC, we ought to figure out a way to get them in our district, to bring them in. Because these are our local people, they care about our youth, they're going to put in extra time. The people that come that live within our district day by day are going to put the extra time in. And that is the most important thing. It's so hard to find housing for teachers that come outside the district. But if we bring them in that are local and get them started and do a recruiting with the college, make sure that we get them within our district, we'll keep our Lakota teachers here at home. Thank you.
Okay. Richard?
Thank you, Tom. That is a very good question. It's been on the minds of educators for many, many years. It's been on the mind of the Oglala Sioux Tribal Council members, the Education Committee, and on many of the teachers and administrators in Oglala Lakota County schools and at schools in the surrounding area. Earlier I mentioned the effective characteristics of school boards. One of them is, the 8th one was, effective school boards take part in team development and training with their superintendent to build shared knowledge, values, and commitment for their improvement efforts. It's great. One of the initiatives this board has taken is to start working with Oglala Lakota College, with the University of South Dakota, with Black Hills State University, with the United States Department of Agriculture, and we're a promise zone. The Oglala Sioux tribe is a promise zone, and with that promise zone, we have lined up with federal partners from Department of Commerce, the BIA, Indian Health Service, Department of Labor, the state of South Dakota, and it goes on. And these entities, and I know that for a fact because I was part of the planning with the Promise Zone. Now it's Opportunity Zone, and Mary Tobacco is heading that up right now, and she'll be reaching out to schools to actually support that. With these federal relationships, as this effective school board characteristic talks about, it's important to reach out because we can't do everything. We're not a university to train our people. That's what the role of the Lakota colleges. The University of South Dakota does that. Western Tech, Dakota Tech does that. School of Mines. But if we build relationships with those people, and we build a relationship with the Department of Education and our foundation, and we reach out to those folks, they're willing to work with us to help us find the money. The U.S. Department of Agriculture has a loan program of well over $20 million that can help with housing. And we've actually entertained that with our school board to try to get that. Right now, the thing on the docket is to get those new schools in place because we're busting at the seams in terms of accommodating our student population. So if we reach out, develop those relationships, and develop the relationships with our own people. I mean, one of the biggest fears in our school systems, not just Oglala Lakota County, is our teachers and our staff, paraprofessionals, they all want to be treated with mutual respect. They want to be valued. Sometimes money is just not what they want. They want to be valued by the school board and by the administration, to be treated for the value that they have when they come to the school system and do a lot of hard work. They have to work after hours, they got to work on weekends and so forth. So, I think it's imperative that we work with the staff and listen to them. I have some education, but I think those people that are in the trenches, they learn about education every day. They're far ahead of me in terms of keeping abreast of what the literature is in terms of teaching strategies. They work with how to handle the special education children, our gifted children. There's all types of things that these educators know about, and I think it's really imperative they rely on them for help and to cultivate their knowledge and make it a benefit to us. Thank you.
Thank you, Richard. And Deb.
I think that there's partnerships that can be established, collaboration. Oglala Lakota College I think is a great resource to us here. And I think maybe incentives, because I do know that when you go to teacher training and you graduate, you take a test to be certified, praxis, and I know those are those come with a cost. And so I think incentives like that would really maybe attract and retain some of our people here locally to be teachers for our students. So those are just some of the ideas that I have. Thank you.
Thank you. Once again, you're listening to the Oglala Lakota County School Board panel discussion and forum. And the election's coming up on Tuesday. There are 2 vacancies, 2 openings on the school board, 5-member school board at Oglala Lakota County, and each of those vacancies, it's a 3-year term. Todd, you were on the board before when when the board moved ahead and renovated and expanded both Rocky Ford and Batesland. And certainly the challenge of a school district in South Dakota, certainly one that's on a reservation, the challenge of finding enough resources, it just never ends. And yet the demands placed on the school board to continue to be able to provide. Richard, who talked about, Wolf Creek School in particular has way more students than it was built for. I think that was the case back when Rocky Ford and Batesland were renovated and expanded. So it's about choices too. And so currently the board has moved ahead. They have a plan to renovate and expand Wolf Creek School and then to build a new high school not in a central location, but at Wolf Creek. There's certainly been rationales for that. But talk about that. What's the role of the school board in meeting those expanding needs that the district has as the population continues to grow and you have more and more students coming your way?
Tom, when I was on the board, we probably did one of the biggest projects as history of Oglala Lakota County schools, at that time Shannon County schools. And I remember when Mr. Twiss brought that to us at the board, there was 3 of us that were really open to it. There was 2 of us that ain't no free ride in this world. Mr. Twiss got the key people in play, and he got us a $12 million tax credit and also a $5 million impact aid grant. And that was a big plus. Basin was in dire needs because of a safety issue as far as being safe for fire hazard and the age of the building. And I look back today at Wolf Creek, when we did add on to Wolf Creek, I tried to make it bigger back then, but I didn't have support at that time on the board. Wolf Creek should not be at the point it is now. Wolf Creek should have been planned on 3 years ago, which me and Maurice tried to do at that time. We tried to get them to get busy and do the paperwork, start looking for funding, and build that. Here it is 3 years later. A year ago they did groundbreaking, but nothing's happened yet. There ain't no building going up yet. Groundbreaking happened, but no building. And today I would look at Wolf Creek as a must, should have been done already. It's sad the kids there have suffered this long without the proper space. And I would make sure it was built to adequate for the future, not for what it needs today. And that was what happened back then. At that time, the board felt, well, this is good enough. And at that time, we had a smaller little gym that's not even good to be in when you you're eating in there. It's just too loud. I felt that we should have redid it a whole different way, but they didn't want to spend the money. We had the money at the time. Now it's going to cost us a lot more to redo it. But I think we need to make sure we take care of the Wolf Creek School and get it built. I really believe that I can find funding for a technical high school and build a really good one that will be good for all schools on the reservation. Not just Oglala Lakota County schools, but Pine Ridge, Red Cloud, Little Wound, even Crazy Horse. If we do it right and build a really good one that these schools can come to and do their technical classes, it's going to make better skilled people for future to have jobs when they come out of technical school, or even when they go on to further into technical at Western Dakota Votech, or come to OLC. We'll have better skilled people to fill those positions. Now, the other problem is we don't have those positions, a lot of them here on the reservation. They have to go off to find those jobs. But we need to have a trained person that can go in and make good money, because minimum wage don't cut it. Teachers' wages don't cut it. They got to have that education to get those wages they need to be successful in life. So at this point, I would, if I get on the board, I'll look at the plans they got, I'll look at the money they got, and make sure that Wolf Creek ain't getting shorted. Because that's very important to me. Wolf Creek has always been shorted, I felt, in the past, and it should never be shorted again. It needs to be have an adequate school like Bateson and Rocky Ford for those students there to learn in a good learning environment. Thank you.
Thank you, Todd. Next up is Richard.
Okay. Earlier I talked about characteristics of an effective school. If it's fifth one, effective school boards are data-driven, make decisions based on accurate, reliable data and information. I believe my role on the school board has been to influence the other 4 board members, and hopefully the 2 that get in if I'm on. If I'm not on, it won't matter. But at any rate, I still can advocate that they have good data. Right now, there's money out there. The state has money, the federal government has money, the foundations have money, and folks are interested in making contributions to what Oglala Lakota County is doing with the schools. The important thing is a good plan based on good data and good plans. We know for a fact, and I know for a fact being at the planning office, that the infrastructure in some of the districts is missing. And in order to do this planning, we're going to have to reach out to other entities of the tribal organization, water, sewage, HR, and so on, and partner with those, the Promise on Thunder Valley, other entities that can lead us to those sources. And most of the funders, the foundations in particular, and the federal government have some pretty stringent stipulations and requirements for funds that they give to the tribe or to a foundation or a community public school like we're doing. So I strongly believe that once we operate as a unified board, minimum conflict, strategy for working our conflict and our issues out, in a modest way with staff and our stakeholders that we can find the support to build the school where it needs to be built. And you know, I still think a school needs to be put between Sharps and Wounded Knee. I know the resources weren't there. We did get the tax credits. We did get other resources to support the school expansion and the building that we're doing right now. But there's room for improvement, and that's why I believe I need to be back on the board. Thank you.
Thank you, Richard. And Deb?
I believe too that there's resources out there. We just have to look. And I believe that Wolf Creek, there's not much we could do now. They're busting at the seams, but we do have to plan, because if you have data, you can almost estimate the increase of population from year to year and how many of that population is going to be entering the school. And so I guess do an analysis of that. You'll be relying on data, the school age, when the child will be entering school, and I think from there you can plan for the future, and so we don't have to be doing the band-aid of building on or adding on to the building to provide space for our students. So I think planning and a vision for the future is really a must. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Deb. And Maurice?
Yeah, and Tom, too, we also had Redshirt on that listing of new buildings. Redshirt, I think, is 11 years old, 12 years old, or somewhere in there. That started the whole series of building. Then came Rocky Ford, Batesland together, and now we're at a point of Wolf Creek. I, too, do not know the plans, the design, the money available, etc. Should I be elected and can help make those decisions, I would review those plans. And I can't help but think that, in our efforts to raise money in the past, that we were very successful. I would hope that we could facilitate that, raising a proper amount of money to make the elementary school a class operation. Our students need excellent facilities, excellent resources. And if we do a VOTEC school, as people are talking about, now the state legislation has been passed to allow students to go to high school and take VOTEC courses and transfer that credit into the VOTEC schools in South Dakota, and ours would be the Rapid City VOTEC. So, it's a pre-start for an educational program to say our students are learning a welding course, so they go to, when they enter the VOTEC school, they already have credit. Saving of time, saving of money, and really a great idea. And I do think that that's the planning of whatever needs to be done at Wolf Creek should be adequate. We've previously looked at the number of babies born at the Pine Ridge Hospital and surrounding areas to see what the population flow is. And I think that has increased. I also fully understand that students are staying in school longer. I mean, they're not dropping out as fast as they were, and their attendance is better. So, things are starting to happen that because whether it's the ESSA, the new educational program, or whatever it is, I think that we're in better shape than we had been. Thank you, Tom.
We're here broadcasting live on KILI Radio, 90.1 FM Porcupine, 88.7 in Rapid City, and KILIRadio.org on the internet, and you can watch us on KOLC TV. This is the Oglala Lakota County School Board Forum and panel discussion as we prepare for the upcoming school board election, which is being held in conjunction with the South Dakota State primary on Tuesday, June 5th. Polls will open at 7 a.m. and close at 7 p.m. You can continue to vote early at Siouxland Center outside of Pine Ridge today, tomorrow, and on Monday. Maurice, you brought up the dropout rate, and I don't know what data you've been looking at. It's still my understanding that we have a high dropout rate. The current school board has said that there are as many as 1,000 potential students out there from either dropping out or students who have chosen to go off the reservation to high school. But years ago, when it was Shannon County, and they looked at their dropout rate and determined that as many as 70% of their students, their 8th grade graduates who finished 8th grade at Shannon County Schools, which is now Oglala Lakota County Schools, and that they were dropping out at some point in high school, whether they went to Pine Ridge or Littlewood or Red Cloud or Crazy Horse. And I don't know, haven't heard a lot to say one way or another that dropout rate has changed. I think the dropout rate is still very high, and the plans for not only one new high school, but as many as 2 new high schools, one at Wolf Creek and one more centrally located between Sharps, between Wounded Knee and Rocky Ford, somewhere in there between Wounded Knee and Sharps, is based on that maybe there's enough students for 2 high schools. It comes down to how best can we, I don't know how you feel, but I feel that today, in 2018, our young people should, at a minimum, graduate high school. At a minimum. That should be, at a minimum, you're going to finish high school, and hopefully they go on to post-secondary education. But I don't know that that's the norm today. Is it the norm? We had not just under 60 graduates from Pine Ridge School, which is a large high school. That's down. It's been as high as 70 and 80, but it was like 59 this year. What are we not doing? Are we doing something wrong? Are there things that we can do better to better prepare our students after 8th grade, that they're going to continue on and be motivated to finish high school? Will 1 or 2 county high schools help that process? Talk to me about the dropout rate. What can we do? And we'll start with Richard.
Thank you, Tom. That's a very good question. And this morning I was getting ready for this forum, and I went and looked at the literature and so forth, and the rate is about saying maybe a little bit lower, about 72%. And I found, according to Native American students faces education crisis 5/31/2018 when I pulled it from Indian Country MediaNetwork.com, that we're in serious trouble in terms of getting students to graduate. There are 600,000 Native Americans that attend public schools in the United States today, K through 12. And there's 22% of them that are on the reservations right now throughout the United States. And we're one of the largest ones. I think any one of us that get on the board are going to be concerned about that. And I think if I get on the board, what I'm going to really push is that we really need to engage our Oglala Sioux tribe, because I don't believe we're leveraging that political power hard enough. I think our president, our council members, our education committee better get off their behinds and start getting concerned about some of these issues. What do they want to do? The education committee needs to stabilize and start working with us and find out what's going on. We got ONEC. They can start working with ONEC and find out what they're doing. I mean, these schools are in disrepair. They're not safe, some of them. Their plumbing doesn't work, on and on and on. So, I think our tribal government needs to step up. And I think we need to be the catalyst to, go to our tribal government and say, we need to do something. We don't need to go to DAPL to protest some of the issues that are going on. We do it right here on Pine Ridge Indian Reservation. Our schools are in shambles. We have the dropout rates. We got meth problem. We got alcoholism. You just go down the list. So we don't need to go anywhere else to find problems. We got them right here. And I think we have the leadership and the knowledge and the skills and abilities to really try to do something and get this thing going. And I think Oglala Lakota County needs to step up. and you know, say you guys aren't going to do that. We'll do something to get this thing going. I can say that now. I'm not working for the tribe. I'm really concerned, folks, that you know we have these students out here. They want to do something, and I know you know we look for help. They need support. They need our support, and we're the leaders. And I think we should lead the way in trying to get some kind of support, and have our presidents and our vice presidents and our leaders on the tribal council to come and meet with us and talk and say, okay, we're the largest tribe in the United States, second largest. I don't think we're using our political power appropriately in asking, pounding on doors and say, we don't want to take no for an answer. You need to do something. We have the treaties. We've got other agreements in place. So we need to really make something happen with our folks and speak out and speak up. And you know, we got district representatives. We ask you guys to help us. Go and look at your schools. I haven't seen very many tribal council people come to Oglala Lakota school and look at it and see what's over there and see any of those folks other than Dana Brave Eagle at our groundbreaking ceremony and asking us, what can we do to help? Can we write you a letter? Can we call the president? Can we call the senator leader? Can we call our Republican friends and say, yeah, we can help you. We'll get you money. I think Crazy Horse School was built when Robert F. Kennedy came out here, and he walked around and looked at things and found out how bad it was, and the next thing you know, they got a school. So our leadership should do something like that and see if we can leverage that position at a tribal, as a real powerful tribe in the United States. I don't think we're using that leverage. Thank you.
Deb.
Well, I think the issue is dropout rate, and as parents and grandparents, we're all too familiar with that. But I think that agencies need to collaborate, not only the Oglala Sioux tribe, but other agencies that can help, that we can reach out to and partner with to address the issues. But I think it goes a step further in identifying why the students drop out. It's unfortunate we don't have a tracking system, because that would really identify and I guess show the students once they graduate 8th grade, then where are they enrolled. It's like I guess keeping track of a student, giving them maybe a number to see were they enrolled and did they stay in school. But I think the social problems that we have on a reservation plays a major part in that, and I think we have to tap into resources to address some of those issues with our students, whether it be not being able to do homework or no family support. It can be a number of things. But the social problems we have here, I think, contribute to a lot of our dropout rate. And we, as in our positions, whatever positions we may be in, I think we have to reach out and collaborate and establish partnerships as much as we can. Thank you.
Thank you. For Maurice?
One of the things that I really look forward to, and I'm so interested in this high school plan to start. It's embarrassing to think that we've gone this long without a high school for then Shannon County students, and now Oglala Lakota County. You know, this should have been done 50 years ago, and I think that we missed opportunity after opportunity as leaders in the community, not only the school board of Shannon County, but also the tribal members. And I'm also pretty sure, you know, like we haven't talked much about parents and family support systems. We need a lot of role models for young individuals. We need native role models achieving. And you know, I think that we need some training, some empowerment given to the parents and treating parents in a good fashion rather than a put-down fashion. We do need parent training, and very positive. Also, we need role models, you know, for work that the students see. You know, I hear stories about Oglala Lakota County that some employees don't even show up at all, some of the upper administration. And I think that is about a poor role model as you could possibly get. Maybe their excuse is to work somewhere else, but it's very unfair for our Native children not to have people that are 100% committed. And so I think the role model is really significant. We need a lot of exposed Native Americans that are running for public office, and now we're having more. We're having more candidates this year, I think, than we ever have running for state office. And so, you know, that whole thing is going to help the dropout rate. Thank you.
Thank you, Maurice. And Todd?
I've always pushed for the technical high school from the time I got on the board till even today. But I never had an administration or a board that really put their heart into it and wanted to go look for the money to do it. I think it's sad that we waited so long. I agree with Maurice, it should have been a long time ago. And when I see the salaries of higher administration that are being paid now to these administrators, and knowing that they can't show up on time and work or put a full day in work, and out there raising money to build this school. This school should have been built a long time ago. It'd been nice to have support to build it. You know, if we really look at the dropout rate today, there's a lot of things that take in accountability. But one of the things I would do, we got many good graduates of our junior high schools that went on to high school and college. I would have some of those at OLC and college taking courses here now in those schools talking to 8th graders. I would have some of those that got degrees like the Sarah Whites and then of Shannon County that went through Shannon County Board, now Oglala County Schools, come back and talk to the kids. We have many students that went through our school system that have got an education and talk to them about the importance of their future. Because it starts right as soon as they leave school to go into high school. It starts the very first day. If you want to get to good scholarships and be able to get that good education, you got to work hard through high school and get a good education. And you build from day one. Build that resume right on through high school, on to college. And it makes a difference when you get out in the working world. I've got a daughter that's went through Red Cloud. She works as a nurse. And wherever she applies, she just gets hired. And it's because of the hard work and effort that she put out through her high school and college days. And it's very important to let these young people know how important it is. When you go into high school, there's number one focus is education and family and being a student. And then number two focus is make sure you keep yourself rested up and healthy for those days come about. When you got to get up in the morning and go to class, be there on time, and make sure you make yourself a role model to all other students. And that's what a lot of these students that have graduated college, Alicia Musal is a very, very good example of a young lady that went on to college. If I look at my past, and I've always supported the youth to come to our board and talk. There's been different times I've been very embarrassed about certain board members' way to treat them. But I think it's so important that we listen to young people when they come talk to us, when they have a plan. And I remember one time Sage Poyer, Audie White came to our board and threw out a plan about helping older people that could not read yet, help them learn to read and teach them read. And I was very amazed at the way those two young ladies presented themselves at the board. But they weren't treated real well by certain ones. And I really respect what they did. They were going to school at OLC. And for two young ladies to come in front of a board like that, were a little bit nervous and talk about this and present to the board of what they were trying to do to make life better for people who are out of high school that couldn't read. And those are the kind of things I really support. I really support our young people, to let them have a voice. Let them have a voice. Let them talk to us. And make sure that they can be heard by the younger students and make a future of them. Because if OLC, some of the graduates I've seen from here have been very, very impressive. And that's the kind of people we need to hire into our schools and recruit into our schools to help with that dropout. Thank you.
Once again, we're here at the Woksape Tipi. It's Oglala Lakota College's Learning Resource Center on their Piawachoni campus here at 3 Mile Creek. You're listening to KILI Radio, FM radio, and watching on KOLC TV. We have with us 4 of the 5 candidates that are running for 2 vacancies on the Oglala Lakota County School Board. We have Dr. Richard Zephier, Deb Bluebird, Maurice Twiss, and Todd O'Brien. We're missing Tom Conroy. The election is Tuesday. Polls open at 7 a.m. and close at 7 p.m. It's just been 2 weeks ago. I want to ask you about school safety. And, you know, whether it was the small town in Texas outside of Houston, or Parkland High School in the high school in Parkland, Florida. It wasn't terrorists who came in and shot up the school. It was either somebody who had been a student at the school or who was there at the school. They brought weapons into the school and shot up the school. I think we've been lucky in Indian country that it hasn't happened very much. At Red Lake up in northern Minnesota, we had an incident where somebody brought weapons into school and killed some students. But as a board member, it to me is a tremendous responsibility that board members have to shoulder, is how do we make our school system a safe place for learning, a safe environment where the teaching staff and students can feel comfortable that they're in a safe place. And I don't know that learning can happen unless you feel that you're safe. And certainly having somebody come into school with weapons and shoot people, I mean, that's at the top end of the continuum. Safety also has to mean that you're in a community where you see an awful lot of alcohol and drug abuse. Schools have to be a safe haven for that as well, and we can't have students or staff members bringing alcohol or any kind of drugs into school either. As the responsibilities of being a board member to create a safe school environment, what are the challenges that you see, and how do you move forward on that responsibility you would have as a board member? And we'll start with Deb.
Thank you, Tom. Well, I think that safety is very paramount in our school systems, and that we have that responsibility as school board members, as administration and staff, to ensure that our students are safe. I think that sometimes, when students are have behavioral problems, behavioral issues, sometimes we tend to not look beyond what's at the root of the behavior. So I think that behavioral health is really important. We could send students to ISS every day, but how is that helping the student?
Sony 75-inch TVs.
And so I think that not only taking the necessary steps to ensure our students are safe in our schools, but to address, the behaviors, because, there's underlying reasons why we may have those behavioral issues with our students. And I think that's, important to our school systems, that we work with our students as much as we can, and that's where the Maushila comes in, the value of Maushila, to have compassion and to try and understand our students in the learning environment. I think that's really, really important, and that we take that responsibility seriously, so we don't end up with something that can end up in a tragedy. Thank you.
Okay. Maurice?
Yeah, in school safety, I guess I really look at leadership in this. We alluded to leadership at some point where we need to have the tribal government do some leadership things, but I think this goes on to the state. The state needs to get together to talk about issues. And the Texas model really did interest me, because the Texas governor drew in several people that were instrumental in making some decisions. The final thing of that decision was that they would do a lot of training. They would do some different protection things that were happening, and hopefully our state, our school board, our tribe could get together and talk about those things. The other issue that I had was school safety. Has many concerns. I use the word terrorism as any individual that comes in with a gun and starts shooting, whether it be a young child or a group of people from a foreign land. But I think that is a great protection that we need. If we need sentries or whatever to help that problem. The other thing, I guess, the gun control is a national issue. It's amendment, or it's a God-given right to have guns in the house, but they need to be controlled. And state and federal governments need to do that. Thank you, Tom.
Todd O'Brien?
I think we have always taken safety of the students into perspective at the district. Even now, I think they do a pretty good job of that. I think where we do a bad job is like with mental health. I don't think we do a very good job at all. I don't think any school in this reservation has done a good job of mental health. And with nowadays, with the drug problem and all that there going on, it even makes it a tougher problem of mental health. And when you look at mental health, it comes down, that's why you see bullying going on. That's why some kids don't want to come to school. That's why some kids just struggle with everyday life. And that's what you see a lot of these shootings going on, is kids that kind of have a struggle with everyday life. And so Deb really hit it right on the spot. We need to stress more with the behavioral health and the mental health of a student that struggles, and the Lakota values really stress that, for make sure everybody's treated in a kind, soft way by each other, students, staff, everybody involved. Because the love that the bus driver gives, and the kindness he gives when that student gets on the bus in the morning, is one of the most important things to the time when he drops it off at night. That can make a big difference. So it don't matter if you're a bus driver, the janitor, or the maintenance man, or whoever. If you show that kind, soft heart, it's going to help with a child and make him a whole different person down the road. You know, I remember a friend of mine that's not here no more, Marlon Moon Weston. Back in 1996 or 95, when I got out of Burn Unit, he called me to the side and he said, "Todd, the things that me and you've been through are accidents. Makes us more compassionate." And after I got thinking about that, that really is true, that you can be really more compassionate to people. And I try to live by that compassion and show that compassion to the people that I around every day and see and show compassion. And that's kind of the thing we need to teach in schools, is being compassionate and the Lakota values. Thank you.
And Richard.
Thank you, Tom. Lakota values and mutual respect. That's one of those 8 characteristics of staff. But school safety is a major concern for me. As a school board member, I was already threatened with a beating or two. It kind of scared me, but it's an issue. And sometimes you don't know where and someone's going to attack you or threaten you or do any of that stuff. My concern was that, you know, as a school board member, you want to be safe wherever you go, because you're speaking out on behalf of the patrons of the school and the students and the staff. And it's important to be, you know, respectfully speak out and tell the issues like they are and try to get the support that you need from the powers that be. And I have a healthy respect for the Oglala Sioux tribe. These are individuals who spend a lot of time deliberating, listen to a lot of information, and trying to make the right decision that's going to benefit all of us. And so with that, I say the challenges for our school board is to make sure our students and our staff and school board members are safe as we speak our opinions. And the Oglala Lakota County School Board has actually started a security department with J.L. Trueblood as our director. Our staff, I won't tell you, I will tell you that they're all armed, they carry weapons, and they're trained monthly on the use of those weapons. We collaborate with the Oglala Sioux Tribe Police Department, Public Safety, and with South Dakota and other entities on how to make sure that, you know, our schools are safe, our communities are safe. We have a phone tree so that if there's an issue in the school, the word gets out to the organizations that can provide additional safety to the school if there's need be. And Mr. Twiss is right about terrorists. You know, there are people out there who think like that, who want to do bodily harm to each other and to school board members or to staff. And I, as a superintendent, I was threatened a number of times, and I was told by a number of people in the community that they were going to hurt some staff members. And I had to report that to the authorities immediately. And so those threats are there. And I think we need to, this school board is doing what it has to do, and within the legal requirements of the state of South Dakota and the federal government, to protect our staff from shooters within the school or from shooters outside the school and so on. So I think school safety is paramount. We want our children to go to school and want them to come home in the same condition with a little more knowledge at the end of the day, and fed and protected. And that even their safety on the buses needs to be addressed. And we're thinking about finding us resources to put cameras on the buses so that we can know who's being bullied and what's going on. So school safety, and there are other challenges, getting the additional resources and the equipment and the technology to these people so that they can keep abreast of the latest research in technology and school safety. Thank you.
Thank you, Richard. Once again, we're preparing for the upcoming election. The Oglala Lakota County School Board election is going to be held in conjunction with the South Dakota primary. Election is Tuesday, June 5th. Polls open at 7 a.m. and close at 7 p.m. You know, I talked earlier about teachers and the challenges of recruiting teachers, and once you get them, to retain them and to find enough pay so that they can be, they can live and they can support a family and so forth. And I wonder today if we have enough of our young people who decide that a teaching profession is the way to go. One year, it was a couple of years ago, Oglala Lakota College graduated one person with a bachelor's degree in education. One. We have 13 schools on Pine Ridge, and one graduate from the Oglala Lakota College in the area of education is not enough, nowhere near enough. So, all of you obviously have expressed an interest in education. You've all taken out a petition to run for school board for Oglala Lakota County. So you've shown some interest. Over the years, Maurice has worked 51 years in education. Todd as a parent or a past school board member. Deb also as a tribal council representative or a parent. Richard both as a superintendent and other area and a board member and a parent. We've all thought about education, but I want you to talk about why. Why are you interested in education? Why have you committed to running for the school board? Why education? And in your answer, I want you to think about what are the things that will help convince a young person that education is the way to go, that we need more of our young people to say, I want to be a teacher. I think it's important. I want to give back. I want to become a teacher. So talk about that. Talk about your interest in education, your commitment to it, and in the line of communicating to young people the value of being involved in education. We'll start with Maurice on this.
Well, that's the education field is broadened a great deal. I can recall back in several years ago, and I won't say the specific date, but as a senior in high school, I was asked to substitute teach a lot, and that began a desire to be a teacher, and I fell in love with the occupation. I went on and went through getting a bachelor's degree in education and continued on and dedicated my life to the education field. Now, I'd never, in this past year, I guess I've had the opportunity to speak to several parents and several students about education. And I really try to sell the fact that we need more teachers. It's a great occupation. You get paid fairly decent. You get some time off. There's always a need. You can go to any town and get a position. And I think that it's been more promising this year than it has in the past, that people seem to me like they're interested in education. So also, I think through the years, and Todd can remember this very well, is for probably 20-some years we had a teacher training program at Shannon County then, and we had put out maybe 175 educated people with a BS degree in education. Those people didn't all stay in education by any means. Some went on to be school administrators, and some went to work in the hospital and do various things. But the significant thing was that some stayed, and some went to different schools. Some stayed in Shannon County School at that time, and turned out to be excellent teachers. So my note to the young is education is not bad. Give it a try, and then if you have difficulties with that thing, go on with something else. Thank you.
Todd O'Brien.
First of all, I think if you take a student in high school and see how they react towards towards the youth and the young kids. It takes a special person to be a teacher. One of the things is they gotta love working with children. And we got some very many qualified young people that love working with children. I've watched young people that come up to the school districts and that I really think that would be a great candidate for a student to recruit into being a teacher. The program Maurice is talking about, we tried to recruit some of those people into that program and get them into that teaching sector. And I know many of them that work within the district, and some we lost to maybe like Pine Ridge or other schools down the road because they actually pay a little bit better than the county schools. And to get those people talked into starting it and moving on to the education field. And the other thing is when you get your certified staff, your teacher aides and stuff like that work well with students, try to get that program started to get their education, get their teaching degree, and that there's a way to move forward. But if you look at education as a whole, it's really a pretty good, like Maurice stated, it's really pretty nice. You work all winter, you work hard, you get some free time in the summer, unless we have summer programs, which I wish we see more of, and then teachers buy into that summer program teaching. But if we really look at the whole, we need to raise up salaries to compete with everything else, because nursing pays better. You get into some of those administrative fields, it pays better. You are working with kids somewhat, but you're not really working with kids as a whole. The ones I really support is the teachers in that classroom. I've had teachers tell me that they feel that they don't have the support they had in the past. And it saddens me to see that, because you got a happy teacher, they're going to do a better job. You got a teacher that's happy, they're going to be there and put that energy into the students. And that's what you need, is an energetic young person, and you need to get these young teachers out that had went on and try to get them committed to going into the teaching profession. Thank you.
Richard.
Thank you, Tom. That's a very, very good question. And the reason I got into education, my father, Alvin R. Zephier, was an educator. He was a principal of school at Porcupine, Wounded Knee, and Allen, and then moved into Pine Ridge, where I started high school. But I was interested in education because I thought it was the route to happiness. You could take care of your family, you could buy a car, you could buy clothes that your children needed, or your house that you needed, all the amenities that go into a house, and that you could take care of your family and everybody would be happy. Little did I know that that's kind of not the way it works in the real world. There's not enough housing on Pine Ridge Reservation. There wasn't then either. We had to go to school 8 hours a day. My hero, by the way, is Hattie Twiss. Hattie was the school superintendent when I was at Pine Ridge Public School back in 1952 and 53. And she used to give us these certificates for perfect attendance and certificates for reading, and so many books, and certificates for just being a good person in school. So, I kind of liked Hattie. She was kind of a nice lady. Anyway, so as I got the education, I found out I didn't have enough money to meet my needs. So I said maybe I'd be a principal. And then there was more challenges to that, and there still wasn't enough money. So I said maybe I get into health administration. So I went and got some courses in health administration. So now I have a background in health administration. Can run a hospital. I used to run the Santa Fe Indian Hospital in Santa Fe, New Mexico. It's a 39-bed inpatient, outpatient facility with 5 health centers that I used to run. And I had a lot of fun there, but I still wasn't satisfied with some of the challenges that went with trying to administer a hospital. Billing problems, inpatient days, outpatient days, healthing plans, and so forth. So I said, well, maybe education is the way to be, but I was raised in hell, drinking around and having a good old time back then. And I said, Richard, maybe if you quit drinking and quit drugging and try to behave yourself, you might be a better administrator. So I did that. 1980, I quit drinking and quit drugging and all that other stuff. So once I got into that, I thought, well, now that I'm clean and sober, maybe I'll be a better administrator. Now that I have a background in health and I know about alcoholism because I worked in the field of alcoholism for about 20 years as a training and quality assurance officer for the alcohol and substance abuse program for Indian Health Service. But I still wasn't able to get the traction I needed to try to change the conditions on any reservation, whether it was Acoma or Cochiti or Belcourt or White Shield or Eagle Butte. The problem seemed to be the same. So I thought maybe I need a business degree. So I went and got a master's in business administration so I could do the formulas and so forth to see how we can manage the population. For example, I know the tribe is distributing resources to the districts, and so there's an inequitable distribution, in my opinion anyway. Some of the districts are smaller, get as much money as the larger districts. That's a concern for me. But I know the formulas on how to make that distribution. I just haven't been able to communicate it to powers that be. But I noticed that education is changing too. So you have a master's in business administration, you have a PhD and an MED in education administration, got 30 years of experience in education. I used to be a teacher at Eagle Butte and White Shield, North Dakota. I was a pretty good teacher. I taught American government, psychology, and sociology. And I coached girls track in junior high football. So I had a lot of fun with the students. I was kind of a hit because I started Indian Club in White Shield and Belcourt, North Dakota. It was really a hit. And what I found out was the students really need adult time with parents and somebody to actually lead them in the evening. So we used to have a study hall from like 7 till 9 o'clock, and the students would come over and we'd do an Indian Club. Did that both at White Shield and Eagle Butte. Freedom Indian Club. I can't remember the name of the other one. I had a good time. But I know the face of education is really changing these days. And I'm finding that just on Pine Ridge Indian Reservation, the cell phone is really quite an instrument. These young people are learning more things on that cell phone and iPad. Sometimes they're ahead of what our teachers are teaching them. And they're not used to sitting in class all day. They can take that phone and mess around with it and get all the information they need. And I know they're learning to be critical thinkers, and I know that because some of these students can tell me off, and I think, well, I'm supposed to be educated, but I have good dialogue with some of these youngsters, and they're pretty smart and they're pretty savvy. They're street smart. They know what they're doing, and so I think education as leaders, we have to change how education is delivered to these youngsters. We probably need to work with the parents on how to spend time and to take the time to be with the students, but I mean, I work for the tribe, and I go there at 8 in the morning, get back at 4:30, and then I rush back to Manderson where I live. I live in a little cottage behind Tolly Plume's house. I've been there for about 3.5 years. Anyway, I get there, and it's like 7:30, and sometimes I go to the district meetings or participate. And some of these parents have families. They all have families. That's a pretty good thing. And they have children. You got to cook a meal. You got to take care of the children. You don't have time to do some other stuff. I get tired, and I'm single. I get tired over there to cook and so forth. So, I think the technology that's available to these students, they become good critical thinkers already. And so, I kind of find it difficult sometimes for our teachers to teach these students who are already pretty savvy about what's going on in the world. I mean, they find out more information. And they're pretty good some of the vocabulary of some of these students who I interact with are pretty bright. We have some bright students. And so I'm trying to think about how, I'm a lifelong learner. So I read a lot. I read these books on political power. I read these books on pedagogy of the oppressed, colonialism and all that stuff, trying to find out what the answer is. What is the answer for the Pine Ridge Indian Reservation to get the traction we need so that we can be happy people? I think for the most part we are happy because we have a pretty good sense of humor. We have a pretty good interaction with each other, but then there's some issues sometimes that there's just not enough money to go around. There's just not enough housing. There's just not enough of anything. So then that causes all kinds of social anomalies, alcoholism, meth, domestic violence, and so forth. And so, I think the school board needs to take the lead in how we're going to address some of these advances in the technology, in how to really reach the parents and get them engaged. And I'm not talking about having everybody come over and we have a drawing and we give out a free bike or a free this or a free that. These parents want a little more than that from us. They want some true leadership. Let's really talk about what are some of the strategies for having people spend time with their kids in the summer months. I know back when I was growing up in Pine Ridge, we had some volunteers come in and they'd have program, baseball league, softball league, a pottery, those types of things that kept us busy during the day. And I think these were church services. So, I think if we try to build those relationships with those entities that do that thing, and I'm an Oglala Sioux, and I get tired of saying that we're always got our hand out, because we're not. You take your money, and we don't want it. We want to work for what we deserve, I think, and we want the treaty obligations to be honored. We want our districts to be developed so there's jobs, so we don't have to leave our land and go someplace else to work. It's all here. I mean, this is worked in the planning office, and I found out that this reservation is a pretty rich reservation. For some reason, I think education is the answer to finding how to leverage the resources we have. And that doesn't mean we rape Mother Earth and pull out all the resources and leave an empty hole. We don't want to do that. There's other alternative measures that we can use to make a real sustainable a happy life for the people on this reservation. I think that's why I'm in it. I'll be in it whether I'm on a board or not anyway. So, thank you.
Thank you, Richard. And Deb.
I think why I got into education, I guess, is I'm a product of Oglala Lakota College. I'm first in my family to graduate from college, and for me personally, that really opened a lot of doors for me. Not only my career, but really getting an understanding of how we function as Lakota people, and so I always believe that our students, when they go off to college, they have to walk in two worlds. And that transitioning can be very challenging. And at higher ed, we've seen that. Students go off to college and for some reason or another, they return and don't return back to college. And that's going off the reservation. So I think that transitioning is very challenging to our students. And so I think that I guess education for me is important if our people are going to survive. And there's a saying that, a quote from Nelson Mandela that we put on our brochures at higher ed, and it says, "Education is the most powerful weapon which you can use to change the world." And so I think that speaks a lot of truth, and we, like I said, put it on our brochures, and it gives you something to think about. You have that knowledge, you can do wonderful things for your people. We always say, go off to school, come back and get a job. Well, there's no jobs in reality. So what do? Well, you create jobs. You have that knowledge now. So I think that's a different perspective, I guess. Instead of saying go off to college and come back, get a job, now you have that knowledge to create a business. And I think that's the answer to a lot of our, I guess, joblessness is entrepreneurship, establishing businesses. And the market is there, and we can survive. We're people, we're resilient, I think. We're very smart. We have very intelligent children. And we see that every day. So I think that that's why I'm into education, because that's the key to our survival. Thank you.
Okay. Once again, we are here with 4 of the 5 candidates that are running for a 3-year term on the Oglala Lakota County School Board. There are 2 vacancies on the 5-member board. Currently on the board chair is Brian Brewer, and also on the board is Dr. Richard Zephier and Chuck Conroy and Robert Tucrow. Who am I missing?
Angie
Eagleball. And those are the 5 members. Angie Eagleball and Richard Zephier terms are up, and Richard's running for re-election, and Angie has stepped down. The election is Tuesday from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. Polls will open, and again, the polling places in Pine Ridge, both precincts 1 and 2, 1 and 3 are at Billy Mills Hall. In Manderson, it's at the Wounded Knee District CAP office in Manderson. In Kyle, it's at the Medicine Root District CAP office in Kyle. And in Porcupine, it's at the Porcupine School Gym. In Rocky Ford at Singing Horse Trading Post. In Oglala at Brother Renee Hall. And up in, now I'm a little confused. It says Cooney Table and it says Red Shirt Table. I think it's the Red Shirt School Gym is the polling place in Red Shirt. And in Baseland, it's at the, it says Oglala Lakota County Schools. I'm not sure. Sometimes it was at the East Waukesha College Center in Baseland, but I'm not sure if it's at the school in Baseland. I'm not sure. Those are the polling places, again, for the election. We have 4 of the 5 candidates here: Todd O'Bryan, Maurice Twiss, Deb Bluebird, and Richard Zephier. We're missing Tom Conroy. I would like to give everyone an opportunity for a closing statement. In there, I'd like you to touch on, if possible, in your closing statement, the challenges you see ahead. I think one of you, Richard, talked about the changes that we've seen in education, the changes in communication, the impact that technology has had on not just our lives in education, but our lives totally, in our lives in the world, in our workplace, and in our schools. So as you close out your statement, talk about the challenges you see ahead if you were a board member for Oglala Lakota County Schools. And with that, we'll start with Todd O'Bryan.
You know, I served 18 years on the school board, and this changes every year. It has in the past 18 years, and it'll keep changing. And to keep up with those challenges is really a challenge. But you need to have the new data and the new facilities to keep up with those challenges, and also you got to make sure you do plenty of training for teachers to make sure they're up with the challenge of keeping up with the everyday lives in the world. I've been around quite a few places over the past few years, and I've seen a lot of good schools, and I've seen schools that need a lot of work. And as I served on the school board, I went many places to try to learn and be a better board member. And when I did that, you learn a lot from those organizations, and you learn a lot on how other Native American communities go. And when it comes to language, Hawaii is probably one of the top as far as teaching language. And there's many other districts that or states that have some really good language instruction. And I think at Shannon County and the schools on this reservation, I think they've done a really good job the past 15 years of educating on the language. But most of all, we got to get our kids trained for the world out there. We got to teach them to make good choices in life. The choices that we make. Be honest with yourself. Be loyal to your family. Be loyal to your people. Make sure you're there to educate. Get an education that's going to make you successful and make your life better. Like Deb said, she got her education. She's very proud of it. We got a lot of local people that have got their education to make a better life for their families and their future, and to get the youth to understand that education is probably the most important thing that they're going to ever do in life. Education is the most important single thing that will move you into a better life down the road. You support your family, you could do a lot of things for your kids, and just make sure you get the education you need to do all that. I think there's some really good candidates up here. And I think first of all, you got to be loyal to the district and loyal to the students and loyal to the parents and honest. You got to be honest to the people. You cannot like try to talk your way out of things. Instead, you got to be honest and tell them what they want to hear. Sometimes it might not be the best that they want to hear, but down the road they'll respect you for it. And I've always tried to be honest. I think I could do the. I think I got contacts to do the best job of raising funds for the technical high school. I think there's ways to go about it and to get it. And if you got a good board and a good administration that's going to support it, you could build second to none technical high school on this reservation as a pilot project. And I think we could show the whole United States that this reservation has done the best job of preparing kids in the future. And that's what my goal is to make sure we do the best job of preparing students in the future. I just want to thank KILI Radio, KOLC, and everybody involved for giving me the time to talk. I just want to make sure that down the road that we have the best education for our students and make sure that the parents feel comfortable that we're giving them the best education. And I'll be there from the day they start school and after school. So I want to thank you for that time. I appreciate your vote, and good luck to all other candidates.
Thank you, Todd. Richard?
Thank you again, Tom. I want to say that there are approximately 8,000 voters on the Pine Ridge Indian Reservation, all of which are in Oglala Lakota County. So I'm asking in a kind, humble manner for your vote. I need your vote to continue what I started as a member of the Oglala Lakota County School Board. I want to thank the KOLC and KILI Radios for having me here today. And I just want to recap what I talked about was 8 characteristics of effective school governance. Good school boards that can actually say they're going to do something and put a plan in place and follow it and monitor it and accomplishment at the end of the year and at the end of 3 years. I believe there are some serious challenges facing the Oglala Lakota County School Board District 65-1 and the Oglala Sioux tribe. The biggest concern I have is our ability to marshal the political will on the Pine Ridge Indian Reservation, because with that political will, we would be a force to reckon with at all levels of government, federal government, state government, local government. Somehow, I will work with the school board to work with the tribe to marshal that political will and make some things happen on our reservation. The other challenge will be coordinating and coping with the technological advances that occur on our reservation because of the entrepreneurship outside in the big world. The next one, we need some strategies for addressing the methamphetamine problem on the res, domestic violence, alcoholism, and other social ills that really face our residents and impact adversely education on the reservation here. The next one is bridging the gap between the cultures so that we're all working in unison as one people, representing our tribe in our endeavors and becoming one nation. The last one is the biggest challenge is I see, and we have a major hand in that because we're the largest district in South Dakota. We're a power to none. I mean, I thought at one time there was other districts that were as large as us. There are in the largest cities, but in the rural communities, we're it. And I think we have the best system of educating children, students in all grades. But I think the big challenge we're going to face is workforce development, equipping students so that they have the skill sets to compete economically on the reservation and in the larger border towns, because most of our people that can't find jobs go to Shadron, Rushville, Rapid City, Martin, seeking jobs. So this workforce development that we're engaged in is really important, and I think that's going to be a little bit hard nut to crack in terms of making something happen with our government. And the last one is, I think we really need to support our tribal government. It's our government. It's a good government. It's growing and it's evolving into, I think, a force that will be recognized in the future with the educational systems that are in place. Thank you.
Thank you, Richard. Deb?
I guess I'm going to rely on the mission statement of the school district, which is to strengthen Lakota identity and values of students and to assure their overall well-being and academic success. And for myself, I consider myself an honest and fair person. I work well with everyone. I respect views, opinions, and just I guess the perspectives of all the board members. And I think that one of the things that we have to do is have a vision and a plan in place with our ever-increasing population, which is going to increase our student population in our schools. I guess in education at the elementary level, I think that we have to prepare our students when they graduate 8th grade to have an idea of what to expect in high school so that they can enter high school and remain and finish, graduate high school. I think that a school board or any board needs diversity. And for my interest in serving on the school board is what I would bring to the table is my experience. I've been a parent, I've been a president of the PAC board at our local school for many years. I've been community member, officer, serving on council, and a program director. So I think my experience at those levels gives me an insight of what education is about and how much we need to support and encourage our educators. And for myself as a school board member, I'm going to rely on the feedback of those educators, of the staff, and everyone that's involved in the whole educational process of our students. So next Tuesday, I appreciate your vote. Tuesday vote yaki mixuyana tokatake wakajaki taku washte uspeona tang unkta hechena hecha wala cha Tuesday ki mixuyana chajemak ukti wopelai chijabe. Thank you, Tom.
Thank you, Deb. And Maurice.
Okay, I'd like to thank everybody that listened for 2 hours, if you're still there. It's been really a pleasure to be here again, and I certainly feel a lot of thanks for having me, Tom, and that were challenges that I foresee in the future. Back when I grew up, some of the worst things that happened in schools would be gum chewing. And things have changed now to the awful thing of meth, etc., that we don't, I particularly do not fully understand why people get involved in that, but they do. And so, as a officer in a school district, you need to prepare yourself for some things that do happen. And every way that we could help society to avoid those traps of using drugs and other things that shouldn't be. I really like schools that have parent involvement, and statistics reveal that all schools that have parent involvement are successful, and so that tells us something. And I think they have to be truly involved. You can't run your Title I PAC board without some type of involvement real involvement. So we need to do that. As should I be elected, I certainly will support that concept. Another thing that everything that we do is for the youth in education. So we need everything involved in youth, with youth, to present, as Todd has indicated. Some students presented at some board meetings. They need to actually be involved in class presentations where they can stand up and make presentations on current events, etc. You know, we got away from that. We don't do that anymore, and we need to have youth that we need to train them in tribal politics, etc., so that they could give their opinions and direction for where they want to go. So that's really important. Another thing is, I'm really glad to see Deb's running for the board. I would like to see more ladies involved on the board. And also, here's another thing, is men involved in classroom teaching. We do not have very many role models as men teachers in our classrooms. So we need to encourage that. And just to finish out is, you know, it's really important that everybody go vote and help give your input for this election for Oglala Lakota County School Board, but also for the state offices, the tribal offices, whatever we need to. We all need to be involved in that process, or else we lose our opportunity to speak. Tom, I thank you.
Well, you've been listening to the Oglala Lakota County School Board election forum. I thank each of these candidates, Dr. Richard Zephier, Deb Bluebird, Maurice Twiss, and Todd O'Bryan, for participating. The candidate we're missing is Tom Conroy. There are 5 candidates for the 2 vacancies on the 5-member Oglala Lakota County School Board. The election is Tuesday, June 5th. Polls open at 7 a.m. and close at 7 p.m. Thank you very much for tuning in here on KILI Radio and watching on KOLC TV. We wish you a very good evening, and don't forget to get out and vote. Early voting is taking place at Siouxland Center, east of Pine Ridge, today, tomorrow, and on Monday up until 5 o'clock. You're listening to KILI FM Radio, the voice of this great Lakota Nation. For KILI News and Public Affairs, this is Tom Casey. We'll send it back to Porcupine Butte and wish you a very good evening.